Hello, everyone, again. So I'm sure many of you who have been following LoRaWAN is very well aware that LoRaWAN has been deployed in various types of networks all around the world. And the very first wave of LoRaWAN started with the public operators, starting with 2015-16 era. And it was quickly followed by the build out of the private enterprise networks as the second wave. And the third wave came in and with a big spike of community networks. And nowadays, we are encountering the fourth wave, which is the satellite-based LoRaWAN connectivity. So every one of these waves have been shaping up not only the technology itself, but also the deployments. And it's not a coincidence that we have such a variety with LoRaWAN. This is all driven by the openness of the technology, the low-cost infrastructure, and the use of unlicensed band. Then switching back to the public operators, even though it's been the very first wave, ever since then, it's been growing in multiple dimensions. And today, this panel, we bring you three operators, Dre Austria, Swisscom, and Netmore, to talk more about how these networks have been built and deployed and growing. So I would like to start with brief introductions. If you can do a self-intro, your name, what you do, and what your company does. Starting with you, Arti, please.
Yes. Hello, everyone. So Netmore is operating today 14 countries, Europe and US, north of 1 million devices connected in the network. And generally, we are sort of a purpose-built LoRa operator, if you may. So we are not trying to build the nationwide networks necessarily, but rather focusing on the projects. And my role is operating officer in Netmore, primarily.
Thank you.
Adding to Lars.
Yeah, hi guys. Lars, I'm the responsible product manager within the Swisscom, responsible for our nationwide LoRaWAN network, which we started 2016. Besides LoRaWAN, we also have narrowband IoT and other cellular technologies. Within our IoT team, we are not only offering connectivity, we also offer end-to-end solutions. Edward?
Thanks, Lars, for the introduction. So I'm Eddie Somerville, product manager for IoT, so LoRaWAN, cellular IoT, and IoT solutions at Dre Austria. I've been at the company since just before the start, actually, of our LoRaWAN deployment in 2022. And at the end of last year, we really were finished with this major rollout to have a first Austria-wide LoRaWAN network. So now we're really pushing this onto the marketplace and developing the technology further from our side.
Thank you very much. So starting with as early days as the 2016, as Lars was saying, that's when they built the Swisscom network. We have reached a point where we have more than 170 public networks all around the world. And Dre Austria is one of the latest additions to that, so I'd like to start with you, Eddie. What was the most pressing push or pull for you guys to build this network? And I would like to underline it's a nationwide network. So what drove you guys to decide to build a nationwide network?
So I would definitely say it was a market pull in this situation. I'm not the first person to say this on stage today, but the hardware ecosystem for LoRaWAN was a really important argument for us when deciding to build this network. We've seen with other technologies that in some cases it can be difficult for customers to identify and find devices that they can use for their projects. And as a telco provider, it's kind of our job not to develop the hardware, but to provide this kind of digital infrastructure that our customers can use to really get their products out there and to launch the product. So to summarize that maybe in one sentence, I would say LoRaWAN offers more things for the Internet of Things. And yeah, I would also maybe add that at the point where we decided to run with LoRaWAN, there had already been other successful deployments in neighboring countries and increasingly examples of use of LoRaWAN in Austria. So for us, it's also a really big USP strategically to be able to have the first Austria-wide LoRaWAN network.
Thank you, Eddie. So I'd like to turn to you, RT. So Netmore has been showing a great example of deploying public networks in multiple countries. So when it comes to deciding to enter a new country, what criteria does Netmore use?
Yeah, as you know, we are not trying to build the whole country on the same time. So we follow primarily the business opportunities. Meaning that if we see that some country, let's say today UK is one of the most or the best example of that there is a lot of water tenders that are coming to the markets, and that gives us an opportunity basically to grab these opportunities. But we are not trying to build a network in the whole UK, but rather just in these islands where we win the projects. And actually this is maybe the main driver for us for entering the country. Is there opportunity, and are these opportunities real for time being?
Okay, so that means we can expect to see Netmore entering more countries as the opportunities pop up elsewhere as well.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Great momentum. Yes. Okay, then Lars, can you tell us about your network densification activities? So your network has started back in 2016. And I know now you guys, among several expansions, you're also working on densifying your network. Can you tell us what is driving that densification, and how are you doing that activity? What does it take to densify a network?
So to understand this, we need to look back and say, okay, when have we started? We started really at the beginning with a nationwide approach, and now the densification is being driven by multiple streams. One is maintaining the network, and then also looking where is the usability of the network and where are the devices deployed. Mm-hmm. And in this, we're looking for relocating gateways where actually usage is. Mm-hmm. This is one stream. On the other hand, we have always been open to offer coverage on demand. Meaning, if there are smart meter rollouts, we are happy to go in discussion with customers to further deploy gateways into the market. Here, it definitely helps that we have our own cell towers, which allows us to move quickly and start with new deployments. And then lastly, we also offer, besides our standard connectivity, indoor and outdoor gateways for our customers that are being deployed indoor for apartment buildings, for sub-metering, for example, that are really deployed in the thousands to also densify the network, to carry the robustness as well.
Okay, so clearly these networks are living things. They are not like you install it once and then you make money out of them for year after year. They are evolving in response to the market demand and the usage. So Lars, you talked about moving gateways from places to places and adding like indoor picocells as well. So it's very much like a living organism. And I think we can also say that it's much easier to do that using LoRaWAN compared to cellular. With cellular, things are a little bit more, they require so much more in-depth analysis and relocating equipment. You need to reconfigure things. Going to some technical features of LoRaWAN, we have this microdiversity. The end device sends a packet and it can be received on multiple gateways, and you can dynamically change the location and the gateways themselves, and the device doesn't have to know about that. So I think the technology itself also supports this type of dynamic changes as well, right? Okay, great. And while we're with you, Lars, so let's also talk about, Swisscom has a narrowband IoT service as well. So you guys have a basket of connectivity services, including LoRaWAN, narrowband IoT, broadband too. So how do you position LoRaWAN and narrowband IoT when the customers come to you? What's the how do you offer? How do you explain which one to go with, and how does the conversation go?
This is a really good question. We always get from customers when they're coming with use cases. And we have been, since the beginning, following this like multi-technology approach, also to allow us to be technology agnostic and say, let's focus on the use case and really go with the strength of each technology to find the best technology for that use case. And LoRaWAN brings great capabilities when deploying networks, as you mentioned before, especially indoors, without a big hassle or large investments. You can deploy further gateways. And compared to narrowband IoT, for example, if there is a lack of coverage indoors, then you're talking 10,000 euros if you want to establish that connectivity coverage. And this is definitely something where LoRaWAN is taking the lead. On the other hand, when customers come to us, we're not only looking at their use case, we're also looking at the rollout plan. So do they just want to use the product within Switzerland, or do they want to go abroad? And when looking abroad, then narrowband IoT can be beneficial, since there are currently more roaming agreements, more operators that are providing a nationwide network. And I would also like to encourage other operators to start roaming agreements in order to close that gap and also enable LoRaWAN for international use cases, or for customers to roll out their solutions internationally.
I think this is also an important point. I would maybe say, in addition to this, when you kind of look at the IoT market generally and also the projections for future years, narrowband IoT and LoRaWAN are going to be sharing a large portion of the connections from an IoT perspective. So from that point of view, as a telco operator, it just really makes sense to have both of the technologies, just to have this flexibility. I mean, from the LoRaWAN side, obviously you have the key advantage of the ecosystem there, but you also have the flexibility in the deployment if you need indoor gateways, for example. On the NB-IoT side, there are also specific use cases, such as electricity monitoring, where customers are keen to use this licensed spectrum technology. But the roaming footprint also for narrowband is quite a big advantage, I would say. So, yeah, it just makes sense from our point of view to have both in the portfolio.
Yeah, so definitely, I mean, they are complementary and they make a great basket. Some operators who are not deploying LoRaWAN think that they're on a head-on collision and they have to pick one, but there's definitely not such a case, as has been evidenced here, right? And how about 5G? I mean, do you guys still see any confusion around, oh, there's going to be 5G, so we don't need LoRaWAN? Or, I mean, any conversation? Because I don't hear this anymore, this, oh, there's 5G, we don't need LoRaWAN, things like that. Can we say this is behind us now, that where LoRaWAN fits and where 5G is going to address? Because like if you go back a year ago, people were talking about, oh, there's going to be 5G and it's going to do everything, anything and everything, so who needs LoRaWAN? But I guess this is behind us, right? We don't hear that.
Yeah, maybe I can comment on this. I think on the LPWAN space, it's very difficult to compare 5G with LoRaWAN. However, I completely agree with the colleagues here on the NB-IoT. There are use cases that NB-IoT is clearly superior, and LoRaWAN can't catch up. But what we see is actually more and more combined tenders coming out, especially in the UK today, where you have two technologies together. So we are together with colleagues from Vodafone in few of these tenders. So it is this collaboration approach rather that to support that. But on 5G, I don't think that, because on the 5G standard, NB-IoT is the LPWAN technology, so there is no 5G LPWAN than NB-IoT. So yeah,
right,
I think that answers.
Yeah, they're borrowing something from 4G, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Let's see how long that lasts. But
yeah.
yeah.
Now there's a 6G conversation, so okay, we'll definitely catch up with that. And then RT, now can you tell us more about your on-demand deployment approach? Just tell us more about that.
Yeah, so our main customers today, 80% of our customers are water meter related, either utilities directly or through water meter companies. And there the main thing actually what you need to arrive is the connectivity per device, whether it's 85, 95, 98, whatever is the percentage you need to deliver. And that drives the deployment. And depends how big are the penalties. Is also the microdiversity you mentioned earlier is a parameter we regulate on how we deploy the network. So eventually, for us, the on-demand is more on really on managing the KPIs and SLAs of particular deployments, rather than kind of, it's not like a special service we offer that much. Even though we, similarly to like you, Lars, mentioned, we have also sort of gateway on-demand type of service for certain use cases, especially for energy management, etc.
And those on-demand networks, once they are deployed, are they dedicated to one customer, or do you operate them and open up to public as well?
No, they are actually public networks in 98% of the cases, and customers have no problem with that. Obviously, when it's built for certain water utility, it's difficult to find a second such a big customers, but there are markets where we see that there is a much more, let's say, equal usage, like in Spain, for instance, where the water and gas are equally strong. So these are would be the examples.
Okay, great. So people might think that when there's a public network, it will always be nationwide. But as you see, that doesn't have to be the case all the time. So starting with on-demand and making it a public network is definitely a good option as well. But then jumping to nationwide networks, Eddie. So again, being the latest, the newest nationwide network, can you tell us how big is your network in terms of how many gateways, how much coverage it has, how many people are covered, and all that, and how long did it take Dre to build that network?
Yeah. So we started with the LoRaWAN deployment at the beginning of 2022. And at the end of last year, we really achieved Austria-wide coverage on an outdoor and light indoor level. So we're using just over 800 gateways on our infrastructure at the moment, so just around 1/6 of our network capacity. Our strategy here is really to make sure we get a wide coverage across the major populated areas of Austria, and on basis of projects, basically, we will be looking at densifying specific areas as we develop further. Similar to as Lars and Arti mentioned, we're also providing indoor gateways for customer-specific projects where the outdoor network isn't sufficient. And obviously, this is the key advantage also on the LoRaWAN side, that we're able to do this quite flexibly. But yeah, as I said, we have quite a lot of capacity left in our network, so we will definitely be densifying further as we move on with the LoRaWAN project.
Yeah, when I was browsing on the internet, I ran into your coverage map, and I was like, oh my God, when did that happen? Like, you know, it seemed like it happened overnight, so I was pretty blown away, and I had to ask people, is this real? And yes, it is very real, so that's fantastic. So I have another round of questions, but meanwhile, we may have some extra minutes. If anyone has any questions, please get ready. We will have a chance, so I hope, Brady, if we could have a mic too, if anyone has a question. Now, my last question that I have here, although I have some backup questions too, so no worries. I would like to ask every one of you, what new services and offerings can we expect to see from you guys in the upcoming days and months?
Yeah, so I think what we have put a lot of effort on is on implementation side of LoRaWAN, meaning that most of our innovation, if you may, is related with how we deploy both networks and devices. And we've seen that as a key game changer when you have deployments of, let's say, hundreds of thousands or even millions of devices in the network. So we push the innovation on this customer front today more or less. After our acquisition of Senet, I think we are years ahead of our customers when it comes to all the features, so to speak. Interesting to follow what's going on the satellite front, but I know, Lars, you're going to talk on that. But we are, let's say, maybe a bit behind on features, but more really focusing on deployment part of the business.
Thank you. Lars?
Yes, happy to step in here. I don't know if everyone has seen today's press release, but as of today, we are excited to announce our collaboration together with EchoStar Mobile and Actility to also expand our nationwide LoRaWAN network with the satellite connectivity from EchoStar, so to also enable these remote places in Switzerland. Although we have 97% of our Swiss population, if you look at the land coverage, there is less, and there are some opportunities we'd like to address, and also to bridge some areas when looking abroad with use cases also internationally. This is one part. Then on the other side, we also have our own device. Who hasn't seen it? It's in the back on the device wall, our MultiSense. Our MultiSense is our own small LoRaWAN device, and we're also looking into further developments to even make it more useful for further use cases.
Yeah, so this is a great example of how as we build different types of networks, the technology and the ecosystem is very cooperative in the sense that we see networks getting integrated between public to public, public to private, private to community, both on the ground and also as the satellite networks are emerging through this roaming API, roaming interface we defined in the LoRa Alliance, and we're able to stitch them together. I think Swisscom is doing a great example of that. So is Netmore. Netmore is also a very power user of roaming, I would say. And yeah. So, okay, Eddie, and how about on the Dre side?
As we're still fairly early in our LoRaWAN project, we're obviously going to have some quite exciting new developments in the coming months and year. So I would say on the one hand, as we started with the LoRaWAN project, actually we also wanted to position ourselves as a solution provider for specific customers. So in the case where a customer might need IoT hardware, but also an application platform, we're able to position ourselves here as like a full solution provider. And on this side, we're currently working on the implementation of smart thermostats, which would basically help some of our customers to retrofit existing buildings, such as schools or other kind of government buildings, with dynamic digital smart heating systems. So this is a really exciting new addition to our facility management solution portfolio. In terms of the connectivity side, currently we're only offering LoRaWAN within Austria, but this is also a topic that we want to address. So roaming is also on our roadmap as a top topic that we want to get in place. So also extending customer networks within Austria, but also outside Austria beyond into other countries also. So they're kind of the two hot topics I would maybe give for further development.
Thank you, Eddie. All right, so any questions from the audience? We have 3 operators. They have commonalities, they have differences, and you can see different flavors of how LoRaWAN gets deployed in the field. Anyone wondering, any questions? All right, if not, then let's thank our panelists and